Hello, my name is Will, and I just recently saw Grand Theft Hamlet in theaters. I want to give you guys my off-the-cuff thoughts on this movie, both spoiler-free and spoiler premium. So whichever one you prefer, you can watch both, one or the other, as long as you watch something and leave a like down below. For those unaware, Grand Theft Hamlet is actually a pretty cool concept for a movie, especially for someone like me who's been following machinima, both the actual machinima channel and just machinima as far as it pertains to making movies inside video games since middle school. So essentially this is a documentary, is what it's being labeled, filmed entirely inside GTA Online. I have watched thousands of hours of GTA roleplay, so I am very familiar with GTA Online and the mechanics and the dynamics. So when I first heard about this just a couple weeks ago, I was very confused about how this would play out. And then once I learned that it was a documentary, that gave me a bit of a clearer idea that this wasn't just an hour-and-a-half long production of the actual play, but this is more so the process of how the play came to be. I think the main reason this film is getting as much hype as it is because the main two actors, Sam Crane and Mark Oosterveen, are actual actors in the UK who are out of work when this was filmed. This was filmed right at the height of the COVID lockdowns, 2021, 2022. So these were just two unemployed dudes who just started playing GTA Online to pass the time and stay connected. And from there, the idea sprouted to put on a production of Hamlet inside GTA Online. As far as the reception, it's actually been pretty stellar considering what the concept is. The critic score on Metacritic is an 82 out of 100, and the user score is 7.5 out of 10. That's a pretty resounding score for an indie film documentary filmed in Grand Theft Auto Online. There's quite a few barriers to entry for the mass public that would ever potentially enjoy this film. So considering the audience it has reached, that's a really, really great performance. It's been shown at festivals all around the world. I watched Grand Theft Auto Online in an AMC theater. That's awesome. No matter what the movie is about, that's cool. Alert, alert, spoilers. I don't know anything about the behind the scenes, it's purely speculation. So Grand Theft Hamlet, as we know, was presented as a documentary, and there's certainly documentary elements through and through. But there's too many times where it's a bit of a gray area, where it doesn't feel like this is the first time something is happening. I think a prime example of this is when their personal friend who they casted as Hamlet initially, he ends up actually getting a real world job, an actual production that, he has to commit his time to, and he can no longer play the lead role. That conversation, and particularly what happens afterwards, their friend gets on a train and just dips out, which was funny. But Mark and Sam stay behind and have a heartfelt conversation where Sam's kind of like, this is, it's not gonna happen. It was a fun idea, but let's give up on it. And Mark is very much so like, this is all I have going. Sam has a wife and kids. He has things to do. Mark has no living relatives left. He's unemployed. He has no family. It's just him and his house. This is very important to him. Certainly doing a conversation like that online, it loses that touch of genuine conversation that you would have having a heavy conversation with a friend in person. But that it just didn't, I don't know. It just felt a little wonky. I just felt like perhaps they had this actual conversation, maybe not even in GTA, but over the phone or something. And they said, this is beneficial to the piece. Let's do this in game. Which I don't know if I'm not calling like an ethical dilemma here. It's, it's not, this isn't journalism, right? It's not the end of the world if they take some liberties for the purpose of the narrative and making sure the audience knows what's going on. But it is a documentary, and the audience is assuming everything they're seeing is exactly as it played out. I don't know, I'm a little mixed. Another example of this is when Sam and Penny get into a bit of a marital disagreement. Sam has devoted so much of his time that he has actually missed Penny's birthday. They live in the same house, have kids, they're married. Again, this conversation, it's just a bit of a gray area. It felt like something that may have happened outside of the game, and they thought it would benefit the audience. Let's go ahead and redo this. I'm not calling the Associated Press or anything like that. I'm not questioning the validity of this documentary. I'm just saying. One of my favorite parts of this movie were the interactions that Sam and Mark were having with the cast of their play. just random online players that saw their ad, you know, we're trying to put on this play, do you want to participate? They didn't do enough of it. I felt like the most connection we had was to Parteb. That's because he had an alien costume on and was funny, which, don't get me wrong, I love Parteb. But there were other characters that I felt would be a lot more interesting to learn about and get into the background of why are you committing your time to doing an online production of Shakespeare? Like, you could just drop out tomorrow and there's no punishment. You would never talk to them again. There's nothing to keep you there. Like, what is actually keeping you grounded and committed to this production? I would have loved to know more of that. They made a directorial decision to focus on Sam and Mark and Penny and their mindsets and their opinions of the production and their motivations. I think I understand why they made that decision. After all, this was Sam and Mark's story. This was Sam and Mark's production. And also, you have to keep the movie tight. Something like this, you can't do a 3-hour-long production. It's got to be a tight 90, and that's exactly what this is. If they did more conversations, more kind of introspective moments with these random people that they met and built relationships throughout their production, it would have extended the movie. Personally, I think it would have been worth it. I think taking that route would have been more valuable than focusing on Sam and Mark. But, you know, I didn't direct this movie and I have not achieved what they have achieved. So I was very impressed with how they chose to actually put on the production. I went into this totally assuming that they just used the amphitheater in the game and just had a side stage and people came in, came out, did their scenes, whatever. They actually moved from location to location. So people that wanted to watch in person, they had to find ways to get them into a boat or a blimp or a plane, take them to the next location, do the scene, and then do it again. That was awesome. That was a great addition to the production itself, and it was very interesting as an audience member watching them figure out how to do it. There's a great scene where they're trying to figure out how to do this big blimp entrance where Sam jumps off it and then the whole audience goes with them and everyone keeps falling off and dying. I could see that being boring for some people who are watching this. I love that. That's the behind the scenes, how it was made type of content that I adore. They did a great job of incorporating that pretty naturally and never felt like it was just like, okay, now we're gonna figure out how to do this. It kind of just flowed into that. They would have a conversation with the cast and then it would just move into, how are we gonna block this? What are the technical challenges we would face in doing this? I thought that was really cool. And then seeing it played out in that final production where they actually travel the audience around and I think everyone blows up at one point, so they have to rejoin. That was funny. And that's what I'm talking about, how this documentary still does a great job. It is Grand Theft Auto after all. It's not just GTA as a vehicle for the production. The production wouldn't be able to have happened if not for Grand Theft Auto Online. And I think that adds a really great touch to the movie. Last thing I want to touch on that I really liked, they do the production, they go to players club and digital drink and digital dance, and everyone just kind of one by one signs off. Sam, Penny, and Mark are outside of the club and they're kind of just like, okay, we did it. What now? I thought that really illustrated something that I've related to. You spend so much time, you're devoted on these projects, that once it's over, you're kind of empty. You're kind of like, well, shoot, what do I do now? You know, my whole purpose for these last X amount of weeks or months was this, and now it's out there, and you know, what do we do? Fortunately, in this specific case, we make this a documentary and we go win awards and make money. Awesome. But not everyone has that opportunity or has the ability to do that. But touching on that, I think, was definitely a great addition, making sure to include that at the end. Because Sam and Mark, at the end of the day, they are actors. And even though some of the conversations perhaps get a little too thespian for my liking, a little too dramatic, it's just who they are, you know? And for better or for worse, it's authentic. And I think that resonates a lot with people who go and watch this film. Personally, I would give Grand Theft Hamlet probably a 6.5 out of 10. I think my wife would probably put it at a 4, maybe 3.5, which I think is a triumphant W. For someone who doesn't play video games too much, she sat through a 90-minute film and enjoyed it, didn't fall asleep. I saw her check her phone a couple times, but I would say a 4 is something to take to the bank. So Sam, Mark, if you ever see this, my wife is a big fan of your work. Like I said, I would say closer to a 6.5. I think just the fact this was done inside a video game, which I don't know if it has actually been done before, especially with the theatrical release, that itself is worth celebrating. I think the dynamic of finding these randoms and filming it from a documentary perspective, I think that was done really well. I think it captures that relationship that a lot of us have experienced before, you know, what it's like meeting people online and interacting with them. Capture that really well. And the fact, I mean, they pulled it off. They did Hamlet in GTA. That's pretty cool. With all that said, I would strongly recommend everyone go see this movie. Even if a 6.5 out of 10 for me doesn't, and a 4 for my wife doesn't sound like that great of a review, I think everyone should go see this, if for no other reason than just how novel the concept is, how unique this is. If you're a gamer, if you've been watching machinima, if that's like a nostalgic thing for you, this hits all those parts of your brain that you've been missing out on. It's a great achievement in filmmaking. I think it's a really unique concept. Doing this entirely in-game is an achievement on its own. And I think there's value to the story that's being told. I think the interactions you see Sam and Mark have with these people that they meet online is really interesting to see develop. The dynamic between Sam, Mark, and Penny as they not only put on the production, but also, you know, think about how to put on this documentary is really interesting as well. Overall, it's great. I think even if you just want to wait till it's available to rent for $3 on Prime or something like that, one way or another, see this movie. I think you'll be doing yourself a favor. It's a tight 90 minutes, so even if you don't like it that much, it's just 90 minutes. That's everything from me. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you've seen Grand Theft Hamlet, or if you just like machinima in general, let me know. I would love to talk about machinima with you guys in the comments. So yeah, appreciate you watching. Goodbye.
I do what I need to stop all the fussing. Ride around the city just to kill time. Someone tries to attack me, gonna hide. I'll keep it safe, I'll die trying. Ain't no one gonna hurt you while I'm alive.